Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Team Time. If this is your first time to Team Time, essentially what Team Time is no matter how much I've read about eating disorders, and I've spent the last 20 plus years trying to figure myself out, there's always something that either I've glossed over or I would rather talk to an expert on. So this week, I'm sure that if you've been watching, you know my friend Terry. So Dr. Terry Hagen started out as a neurosurgeon, and then he basically flipped to the other side of the brain. He decided that he was more interested in the mental health side of it and the psychiatry piece of it. So we are going to get the best of both halves of his expertise. So good morning, Terry. How are you?
Good morning, Kim. I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Perfect. So today, as you know, we are going to talk about impulse control disorders. And you know, I have a degree in psychology, and this is kind of a new one for me, especially you know, as the terms start to blend together. So that's one of the things that we'll ask our expert. So Terry, I guess my first question for you is, someone comes in demonstrating signs of what you would consider an impulse control disorder. What would that look like?
Well, you know, psychiatrists are used to organizing our diagnostic thinking along the lines of the DSM, all right? And so the DSM lists 5 impulse control disorders. And without a list in front of me, let's see if I can get all 5, okay? So you have Kleptomania, which is stealing, Pyromania, which is fire setting. You've got hair pulling, which is trichotillomania. Then you have Intermittent Explosive Disorder, which is that impulsive anger. And then there's a 5th one. Which one am I leaving out?
Is it compulsive?
Okay, I don't have a list in front of me, but the point is that the DSM defines those 5, and so you know there's also this characteristic whereby, for instance, if you're about ready to shoplift, which is the kleptomania, then there's a buildup of excitement, and the excitement needs to be discharged, and while that might appear like it's a build up to a reward, it isn't so much the reward as it is the thrill of the process. Of
the thrill of the hunt, right?
Hair pulling is different. Trichotillomania is a matter of just pulling hair out somewhat unconsciously, such that people do it in their sleep. Behavioral treatment is to wear gloves. For instance, so we got, and then pyromania is fire setting. Again, it's essentially arson, or related to arson at least, but the buildup of that excitement, the thrill that drives people to do it. So it's not as if they're helpless to do anything about it, though. You know, the treatments are behavioral treatments, cognitive and behavioral therapy, and then also the antidepressants, the SSRIs, do help to contain what looks like that anxiety or excitement level, and otherwise might reduce the desire to do it.
Yeah. So it sounds like for our audience, what you're saying is that sometimes these compulsive behaviors are for the reward because they may be in a depressed state.
Okay, run that by me again.
So when you're talking about antidepressants, just to clarify this for the audience, what you're basically talking about is this behavior gives them a rush that then brings the depression. It elevates the depression, so they're not so depressed.
No, there is no connection between impulse control disorder and depression. And so what I think you're doing, what a lot of patients do is they think that because you recommend an antidepressant that they must be depressed. And they'll say, well, I'm not depressed though. I have
Yeah.
anxiety. Well, the antidepressants treat anxiety probably better than they treat depression. So
Yeah.
when we use the word antidepressants, we're just labeling a group of medicines that is used for both depression and anxiety.
Yeah. Okay, so
So
let me ask you
it's
a question
more,
on that. Oh, go
it's
ahead.
more in that, it's more in that anxiety spectrum, if you will,
Yeah.
where the antidepressants are helpful in impulse control disorder.
Yeah. And I know we had talked about before that there are issues with the dopamine in the brain that can sometimes cause that. So can the difference in the dopamine also cause the depression?
Well, again, we're veering off into depression.
Right.
If we're talking about the concept of impulse control, then the what you run into online when you're looking at the association between dopamine and impulse control is you're really looking at conditions like Parkinsonism or
Uh-huh.
Parkinson's disease, in which the cells in the brain that produce dopamine literally die out, so
Uh-huh.
then there becomes an imbalance and a lack of dopamine.
Okay.
So then you get
Uh-huh.
impulsive movements in Parkinson's disease. And while that, when you look up impulse control disorder, Parkinson's disease pops up.
Oh
But
yeah.
Parkinson's disease is a neurological brain disease. It is not a psychiatric illness. Now, to be careful, people with Parkinson's can have dementia and can have depression.
Uh-huh.
And so there is some overlap with psychiatry. But in this discussion of impulse control, it is impulsive movements that we're talking about with
Uh-huh.
Parkinson's. So then, to make it even more confusing, there are 5 different types of dopamine in the brain,
Yeah.
labeled D1 through D5.
Yeah.
And it's the D2 dopamine producing cells that drop out in the case of Parkinson's disease.
Okay.
In the cortex, in the front of the brain, the surface of the brain, where we do all of our thinking, then it is other types of dopamine, particularly D1 and D3, that seem to be the most uh, prevalent or most useful. So then we can kind of come over and take a lesson from ADHD.
Uh-huh.
What we know from that is that ADHD has as a characteristic impulsivity,
Mm-hmm.
which is not the predominant symptom. Therefore, ADHD is not thought of as an impulse control disorder, but there is some overlapping in there. And we believe that with ADHD, there are specific centers in the brain that do have less dopamine than they need.
Yeah.
And therefore, the impulsivity that one might normally have is not well regulated.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So,
Well, and it's
and that,
interesting because for the people who've watched the ADHD video, we talked about how there is a high comorbidity with the ADHD and binge eating disorders and bulimia. And now we're saying, and impulse control disorders have a high co-occurrence with binge eating disorder and bulimia. So it seems to be kind of all wrapped up in that same area of the brain.
well, again, there is some overlap. If you zero in on the term impulsive or impulsivity, there are going to be several psychiatric conditions that would include some of that.
Yeah.
But to organize it, and the point of the DSM is to organize these groups of symptoms into diagnostic categories so that we can try to get a grip on. If you ask me what causes impulse control disorders, then the answer is, well, we don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot about what goes on in the brain that we don't know
Yeah.
because it's unethical to experiment on the human brain. And for that reason, the advance of medicine as it applies to mental illness lags far behind other organ systems.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
for which you can do some experimentation with humans, or you can use animal models to say it works the same way in humans because the organs are the same.
Yeah.
But when it comes to emotional and thinking processes, then the animal models really fail. So the point is that what we're doing in this particular session, you and I, is we're trying to take this concept of
Yeah.
impulsivity and impulse control and define it and get some kind of grip on what that means.
Mhm.
So impulse control disorder is specifically defined the way I mentioned it at
Yeah.
the beginning. It's pyromania, trichotillomania, kleptomania, intermittent explosive disorder. And then that fifth one, I can't recall at the moment. Challenge our listeners to look that one up. But are the impulse control disorders.
Yeah.
Now, there is impulse control problems of impulse control in other psychiatric conditions, but that doesn't mean make them impulse control disorders.
Yeah.
All right. So if you bring the discussion then over to eating, we think that, for instance, with binge eating, there is some problem of impulsivity in that you can binge and know in the moment I'm binging, but I don't care. I'm doing it anyway because I
Yeah.
can't stop myself, or I won't stop myself. I don't know what that is. It's somewhat automatic, but then I keep doing it. So that reminds me of the hyper focus of ADHD.
Yeah.
It also reminds me a little bit of impulsivity in the sense that that in that moment we're not thinking it through. We're not
Yeah.
making a thoughtful decision about what we're doing. We're just doing it anyway.
Yeah.
It's an automatic / impulsive act. But notice there's a difference between that and kleptomania,
Yeah.
which is shoplifting, stealing, and the like. It's just a different thing altogether. One's clearly wrong. The other is, we believe is wrong, but there is some tie-in. You kind of, on an intuitive level,
Yeah.
you can kind of see how there is some commonality there.
Yeah.
But what it all boils down to, and this is the way it works in psychiatry and psychotherapy, that awareness of what you're doing, and if possible, how you got to be that way, that the awareness is the first biggest step toward doing something about it, because obviously you can't do anything about it if you're not aware of it. But once you are aware of it, the question is then what do you do with that information?
Yeah.
And in this sense, it's like, well, it's a behavior that I can learn to control.
Yeah.
So one big mistake I see in psychiatry patients is that they think they're helpless to do anything about it, whatever it is. The reality is that they're not informed enough, that they don't know enough to do something about it. So then they assume they can't. Well, they can. So self-education is a big crusade that I have.
Oh yeah.
In this information age, we can all learn about these things.
Yeah.
And so if you're
Well,
aware,
that was our whole mission. Yeah. Behind putting these together was, if we educate people, then they can start to self-help some of these. And awareness is such a big thing. But I remember when we first started working on some of my impulsive behaviors, that, you know, I would, while I was doing it, my rational brain would be saying, you know, this is not what you want to be doing. And then I would start thinking of the consequences and what I really wanted. But and I kept telling my therapist, I don't know what it is. Like, I can be thinking these things and it just doesn't stop me from doing it. So do you see that with your patients, or am I an anomaly?
well, again, you know, if what we're trying to do is to help people to move beyond their problem, or to deal with the problem, then when you're faced with something like binging, for instance, the belief is, well, I'm binging again. you know,
Yeah.
why am I doing that? I don't
Yeah.
understand why I'm doing that. I know about binging. I know I do that, and now I'm doing it again. What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Well, if you take that and say, okay, well, I need to learn more about this. Well, with me, for instance, when I realized I did have a tendency to binge, I mean, I was recording my weight loss every
Yeah.
day for future, online courses and the like. And every weekend for 3 weekends in a row, I would blow my diet.
Yeah.
And and then I would do the calorie calculations and realize that it really wasn't that bad, but honestly, it was still binging. And
Yeah.
once I realized I'm binging, that's what this is. I mean, I had one night when I fixed myself a peanut butter sandwich. And then I realized that I had bologna. Now, I rarely have bologna, but I'd gotten it from my kid who never had a bologna sandwich. And I thought I could fix myself a bologna sandwich. So then I got out the supplies and I fixed another sandwich, only that turned out to be a peanut butter sandwich. So then I thought, well, no, I've got two peanut butter sandwiches, but I still need that bologna sandwich. So I did the bologna sandwich. And so I'm eating all of these. I mean, I've already had the one peanut butter sandwich. So then I eat, the bologna sandwich, and then
Yeah.
I was down to one piece of the third sandwich, thinking I can't eat anymore, and then
Yeah.
I ate it. And I
Yeah.
thought that's a binge. That's a
Yeah.
binge. So I need to be honest with myself in terms of saying I do have a problem binging. So what am I
Yeah.
going to do about that?
Yeah.
Well, I was recording. And I thought, I know that I can retrain my brain. That is, I can write a new pathway to offset this binging pathway. Right.
Yeah.
So I took a lesson from Alcoholics Anonymous with the words, just for today, that I
Yeah.
resolved not to drink just for today.
Yeah.
And so I constructed this, what I called a cognition, that I would say to myself every day, at least once a day, several times a day if needed. I have a problem with binging. In order to reach my weight loss goal, I will not binge just for today.
Yeah.
I wrote it down. I said it to my listeners. I said it to myself, and it seems to have worked
Yeah.
because now every time I start to binge, I think, okay, that would be a binge. I don't think I want to do that. So then
Yeah.
I head it off. I
Yeah.
go in another direction. So it is an example then of how, if you know what to do, you can
Yeah.
do something about it. You're
Yeah.
not helpless. Over and over again in my patients, they come in and they sit there as if they're helpless. Now, you're not helpless to do something about this, but
Yeah.
you're going to have to do that work.
Yeah.
You can't just come to the doctor and have this rather passive way
Yeah.
of subjecting yourself to the care of the medical profession as if we're going to do all that work
Oh,
for
yeah.
you,
Yeah. There
particularly
is
in
no
mental illness.
anti-binge pill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But
when it comes to self-improvement, you have to do that yourself.
yeah.
That's what the self
Yeah.
part is.
Yeah. And when you talk about just for today, I had to take that back a step. I had to say, okay, just for this meal. And then, as a kid, it's drilled into your head. You have to clean your plate, clean your plate. So as I heard you saying, oh, I
Yeah.
was down to just the last piece, we think, oh, well, I can't waste this last piece. And so the thought that I had to
In my
replace
day,
that
if I
with,
could interrupt you,
oh,
in
yeah,
my
go ahead.
day, it was there are starving children in China. So
Yes.
it was that guilt
Yeah.
trip. There are
Yeah.
children who would love to eat this food.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
clean up your plate. Be
Yeah, and
grateful.
it does seem wasteful. And what I had to start telling myself is, okay, well, I am not a garbage disposal. If I am full, then it either gets put away for another meal. It doesn't matter how small it is, or it goes in the garbage because that's where garbage goes. And so when I started looking at it that way, it wasn't so much I'm wasting food. It was, okay, I've had what I want and it won't be good later. So the garbage is going where it belongs, and that's not in my body. Yeah, so I just decided that I was no longer going to be the garbage disposal. And then what I put in my body was like, okay, I know that if I eat too much, I don't feel good. So don't push past that point. Just push to the point where you're like, okay, I am satisfied. And then anything else goes where it needs to go, but not in my body. So that was just changing, but it was meal to meal for me at first.
Yeah, I like that. You know, another cognitive correction that you can use there is that once you've eaten what you know you need, and you might even feel satisfied, even if there's more food on your plate, it's wasted whether you eat it or not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So we
And
hate
then
the
your
idea of
body.
throwing out good food, but if you throw it into your body when you don't need it, you know, I'm doing a series of reading and thought and recording about this concept I have that you can lose weight and then what? All right. Well, how are you going to keep it off? Well, I know that for me, you have to keep it off by redefining that self-image.
Yeah.
The self-image is I choose to be healthy in every way I can learn to be healthy.
Yeah.
And so if your focus then becomes I need to get better and better at knowing what healthy is
Yeah.
and thinking about that and reading about that
Yeah.
and being excited about cooking that
Yeah.
instead of telling myself, oh, I can't eat that,
Yeah.
as if you're depriving yourself of something good.
Yeah.
Something that tastes good is not necessarily healthy.
Yeah.
And so it becomes a problem about, am I going to be ignorant about this or am I going to be informed?
Yeah.
Because once again, just because it tastes good doesn't mean that it is good,
Yeah.
that it is healthy. And
Yeah.
so you know, it's not a quick fix. These self-improvements take a long time.
Yeah.
It's gradual. So you
Yeah.
have to be patient with yourself and
Well,
just accept slow progress.
yeah. Well, and even one thing I had to shift for myself is instead of looking at it as I am losing weight, I was looking at it as how can I gain health? So, so because we get wrapped up in the weight or the number, and for me, it wasn't about a number. It was about being as healthy as I possibly could be. And I know that's what you're talking about too. But
Mhm.
sometimes when we even like a lot of times when you say, I'm going to go exercise has a different connotation than I'm going to go move my body or I'm going to go dance or I'm going to do whatever. It sounds more fun. Like losing weight, you're like, okay, that sounds bad. Like losing weight, like, so I looked at it as gaining health. And then what I had to do is define what health meant to me. Like I knew that I carried too much around my midsection and that was gonna, lead to cardiovascular disease. So I knew that I had to get rid of that. And that meant, like exercising more, eating healthy. But we just get so wrapped up sometimes in the number itself when you go, oh no, let's just focus on health.
Yeah, if I could talk about an example that's going on in my life
Yeah.
right now. Um, I for about 6 months now, I've had to pay particular attention to my kidney health.
Yeah.
Before that,
Yeah.
I had to think about kidney health, but now I know that had I been paying more attention to healthy food over the years, I would not have a kidney problem now.
Yeah.
Well, so in the last few months, I've gotten up to 30 minutes a day on my elliptical trainer. I'm eating a lot of much healthier foods. A lot of them are out of this book, Genius Foods, that we've talked about.
Yeah.
I mean, I make myself a salad every day that has most of that in it. And then I know that I'm kind of on a cornbread kick right now, and cornbread is much healthier for me than anything that has gluten in it. All
Yeah.
right, so that's good. But now all of a sudden I've got this swollen little toe,
Yeah.
and so I talked with my family doctor about it. He said, "Is it gout?" And I said, well, I've thought about that, but, I'm getting exercise. My weight
Yeah.
is down. I'm eating a pretty healthy diet. Well, we did the lab work, and sure enough, my uric acid level was 1/10 of a point above normal. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking, okay, there is another step that I need to take.
Yeah.
I need to do some kind of dietary adjustment then, so
Yeah.
that I'm not doing whatever is driving my uric acid level up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because this is about avoiding pain. Yes, the pain of gout. You can get gout into remission if you're eating the right foods. And so for me, I can either think of it as, oh my, well, another health problem that I have to deal with, which is a negative way of looking at it, or I can say, okay, this is an opportunity then to refine the process.
Yeah.
And maybe by refining this one, and so right now I'm thinking, what can I replace the cornbread with?
Yeah.
All right. And the answer is, you need to replace it with vegetable carbohydrate.
Yeah.
Get away from the grain
Yep.
and more toward the vegetables. And I'm thinking, broccoli has a decent amount of carbohydrate in it. And then, avocados have fat and carbohydrate.
Yep.
And for that matter, blueberries are in my salad, and almonds are in my salad.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to get enough carbohydrate. So the key for me is to wean myself off the cornbread earlier in the day and replace it with that salad, particularly now that the weather's warming up.
Yeah.
I mean, in colder weather, I might want to fix something warm, which would be roasting the vegetables. But the point is that I need to then take that step of improvement toward, I need to reduce grains, reduce carbohydrates, and get more into this plant-based diet. And you say, well, yeah, but cornbread is plant-based. Yes, but it's also grain. And we can eat way too much grain such that we're not really in balance with the sense of what our system really wants and needs, and therefore what we need to avoid in order to be healthy. That's the hardest.
And as you start to clean it up,
always thought were good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, cornbread, I can fix good cornbread. I put more eggs and sugar in it, and I can make cornbread pretty good now. Okay, but that was not a self-improvement. That was a self-indulgence.
Yeah. But it is kind of fun to take your favorite foods and go, okay, I don't want to give up my favorite food. Let me just figure out how I can make it healthier so that the end product, makes my body feel good. Because, when I was eating, terrible and I was binging all the time, you don't really notice, like your common state is tired and bloated and, just that general disgusting feeling. And then as you start to slowly make these improvements, like you start to realize, like I didn't even realize how much I was taking away from my body and my day, just by, eating, unclean foods or eating too much of them.
So if we take this conversation then and tie it back into impulse control. Sometimes impulse control is doing what you've always thought was okay to do.
Yeah.
I mean, then you learn it's not okay.
Yeah.
But then the automatic patterns are still there, and so you continue to do it. It looks like you have an impulse control problem.
Yeah.
Learn to do that. I can phase that in over time.
Yeah.
I don't have to do it all today.
Yeah. And I think that's a big problem for a lot of people. They go, hey, I want to get healthy, so I'm going to, cut everything out of my diet. I'm going to exercise for 2 hours a day. I'm going to, and then, it becomes this obsession versus something that you can just kind of slowly weave into your life and start to, because no one wants to see, the scale drop by half a pound. We're like, oh no, I want to lose like 10 pounds in a week. And, but you're like, okay, you just slowly start to make changes and it'll happen. You just need to, constantly tell yourself, hey, every good choice I make leads to better health. It may not be right away, but you'll see it.
and I think also with weight loss, it is okay to pick your time.
Yeah.
You know, when I bought my elliptical trainer recently, my goal was to get up to 30 minutes a day,
Yeah.
which I did achieve.
Yeah.
It took about a month to do that. And so now I do that every day for 30 minutes. But I knew that 30-day period that I was getting up to that was not the time to try to lose weight.
No.
That's too
No.
much.
Yeah.
Too much change.
Yeah.
It's too much of it's expecting too much.
Yeah.
I knew I wasn't going to succeed at that.
Yeah.
But now that I'm up to the 30, weight loss, well, not so fast. I need to fix the uric acid problem next.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm going to get out the stuff about kidney disease and about brain health, and I'm going to say, okay, what are the healthy foods in that, most of which I'm already doing? What do I need to change now?
Yeah.
To get that uric acid level down?
Yeah.
That one step. And so I'll do that for a month or 6 weeks without really thinking about losing another 5 to 10 or 20 pounds.
Yeah.
Because it's not all about weight loss. It is about being healthy, but it's also about not trying to change too much all at once.
Yeah. For me, the first thing I started with was sleep, because I'm like, I know I make bad decisions when I don't get enough sleep. And so I just want to focus on getting sleep. That way my brain is functioning properly and I can make good decisions. And then it was water. So, it took me, a couple months before I ever touched my food.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so do we have a reasonable understanding about impulse control disorders?
Yes, but I did have one question. So,
Yeah.
So we have talked about these five categories, but how do things like sexual impulses or compulsive shopping or, compulsive eating or, how do those like impulsive behaviors factor in?
Well, I think we all, there are, when you start talking about the causes of these things,
Mm-hmm.
it covers a pretty broad area. You have genetic tendencies,
Mm-hmm.
and then those tendencies can be brought out with certain environmental influence. For instance, stress.
Yeah.
Somebody who might have a tendency to compulsively overeat is going to have more of a problem with that under stress.
Mm-hmm.
And stress can be caused by poor sleep.
Yeah.
It can be caused by a sick child. It can be caused by a job loss. It can be caused by a coronavirus.
Yeah.
There is stress. So it is very important to be mindful. What is the stress going on in my life? And maybe I need to do something about that.
Yeah.
As a way of indirectly controlling my eating impulses.
Yeah.
Again, if you know to reason it out that way, then you've got a tool to work with.
Yeah.
But if you say, I don't know what's going on with me, well, all right, but that's not going to help. That's just being defensive and saying, I don't know what to do, so I'm not going to do anything. Well, we'll see how that works, because you're not going to get better unless you think, okay, I need to have the presence of mind here to analyze myself, ask myself questions that might be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I need to be willing to give myself honest answers, and I need to figure this out. And you often need to set aside the time to do that.
Yeah.
To sit, drink your coffee, stare out the window, and say, I need to think about this until I get to a better place with it.
Yeah.
So, whether your impulsive eating or behavior is being driven by stress or by genetics or by your own patterns, people can develop these addictive behaviors before they realize that it's really worse than I thought it was.
Yeah.
There's, I know someone now who's clearly put on 15 pounds
Yeah.
in the last 6 weeks. And I'm thinking, what's going on there? Well,
Yeah.
sitting around in the house, self-isolating because of the coronavirus,
Yep.
and overeating, not
Yep.
getting enough exercise. And I'm thinking the more of that you do, the more you reinforce that hardwiring in your brain.
Yep.
So thinking, okay, I'll deal with that later.
Yeah.
Okay, but in the meantime, you're reinforcing what you don't want to reinforce, and it gets harder and harder then to offset the hardwiring that you're laying into place.
Yeah.
So it's much better to keep coming back. Oh, that's not acceptable. I need to be doing better at this. What is the small step I'm going to take today in order to know that I'm not just accepting this bad behavior?
Yeah. So it sounds like what you're saying. So step one is to basically go, what is important to me? What kind of person do I want to be? What do I value? And then basically do an assessment and go, okay, based on those values, where am I in relation to those values? So if health is important to me, where am I in relation to my health? And then to develop a plan, but not try to implement the plan all at once. Do it incrementally. Like, okay, so now I've got my sleep dialed in, and now that my sleep is dialed in, let's focus on water. Now that we got our water dialed in, let's, focus on adding more vegetables, so it's, as you can create habits that are good, then you, in the end, you get what you value.
Right. And if there were one thing that I could do to another person's brain, it would be to say, look, you can't just acknowledge that, yes, I want to be healthy without it being a priority.
Yeah.
That it won't work.
Yeah.
You're either thinking it is my responsibility to
Yeah.
be as physically and emotionally healthy as I can be. I need to figure that out.
Yeah.
It is my responsibility, and I'm the only one who can do it.
Yep.
And then you put the appropriate amount of thought and planning into that. Because, how many people, when you think about it, get up in the morning and go throughout their day without much thought about being healthy today?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I would say most people don't.
Just as,
Yeah.
6 months ago, kidney health.
Yeah.
I'm a 65-year-old physician. I've been a doctor for 41 years. It never occurred to me to think that I need to be doing something to keep my kidneys healthy.
Yeah.
And if it wouldn't occur to me, then how few people would that occur to? And the problem is that we wait for a problem to pop up before we think about it.
A heart attack, stroke.
We go through life working and then looking for pleasure to reward ourselves for working.
Yeah.
But if you want to live at a higher level, then you're thinking, what is health? What is happiness?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do I achieve that in my life? I need to learn more about how to do that.
Yeah.
So that I get better and better at it over time. If you don't have a conscious thought about it, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You're just going to get lucky.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of it, so with impulse control disorder, one of the things that they talk about is delay discounting. And so for anyone who doesn't know what delay discounting is, it's basically like, okay, I have this jelly-filled donut right here in front of me, and I can have instant gratification if I eat this donut. But delay gratification is basically like you say, okay, if I don't eat this donut now, then later on down the road, I'm going to have health. And when we talk about this abstract health, a lot of times people don't see it because it's such an abstract idea. We don't set milestones to get there. But with delay discounting, people with issues with delay discounting, they go, oh no, I want the bird in the hand is what I want. I don't want to wait a week, you know, to lose my 2 pounds. I want my jelly donut now.
Well, so once again, if you take this jelly-filled donut, I think the question is not, should I delay this gratification for something later on down the road? It is, am I going to be happy
Yeah.
if I eat this?
Yeah.
Am I really going to be happy? I mean, I might enjoy a taste sensation for a few minutes at the most.
Yeah.
After which I feel guilty that I've done something wrong, because I know that I have.
Yep.
And people who are paying attention, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Anybody who's tried to lose weight, exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
What I believe you have to do is to say, is eating this donut really going to make me happy?
Yeah.
Or
Which will
am I
make
going
me
to be
happier?
happier?
Yeah.
Am I
Yeah.
going to be happier not eating it?
Yeah.
Because if I don't eat it, I'm not messing with my blood sugar. Therefore,
Yeah.
I'm not messing with my energy level.
Yep.
I'm not putting stuff into my body that's going to cause excessive inflammation and then make me feel worse, as in less happy. I'm going to compromise my brain chemistry in that I'm just not going to be as aware of life, emotions, happiness. I'm just not going to be finely tuned if I eat junk.
Yeah.
You have to know that bad food is not just something that you get away with. You don't get away with it. You pay a price, and you pay a price in happiness. You have to translate the jelly-filled donut, or the lack of it, into something that is happier.
Yeah.
Because your brain chemistry and your body chemistry is happier.
Yeah.
That's the way it works.
Yeah. Well, and that's why in my program, one of the things we use is imagery, and we call it the craving buster, because you're picturing this jelly-filled donut and, oh, how great it's going to be. And, you know, you're salivating and all these things are happening in your body. But the craving buster is you continually will rehearse imagery of what that new life will look like. When I reach health, what is that going to look like? And so when you keep that image in your brain, that jelly-filled donut doesn't look as good, because it could never compare to not having an eating disorder. You know, an eating disorder wreaks havoc. And so you go, okay, you know, do I want a jelly-filled donut, or do I want to be free of this compulsive eating? You know, do I want to be free to live my life and wear my cute little dresses and, you know, whatever your motivation is, you know, if you just keep that image in your brain, then all of a sudden that thing that you thought was so great, you know, whether it's, you know, stealing something, or, you know, whether it's, you know, lighting something on fire, you know, whatever impulse you have, if you just keep that end state in mind, and vice versa, if you look at the consequences, you know, those are also powerful, because you go, okay, I know where I've been and I don't want to go there anymore. But excellent. Okay, so we are coming to the top of the hour, and I am going to just do a brief cap of what we've talked about, and this has been outstanding. So one of the things you talked about was we have to change our thoughts. So if our thoughts say, oh, this thing is going to make me happy, the thought is, no, what's really going to make me happy is not doing this and then being healthy, or, you know, not doing this and not risking going to jail, or, you know, whatever the impulse is. So it's changing the thought that's driving the impulse. The second thing you talked about is sometimes you may need some sort of medication. You know, it might be that anxiety or depression, or, you know, whatever it is that's like underneath your impulses might be driving this. So you may need some medication to help you kind of get over that hump. And then the third thing that we talked about was setting your values and making small progress day by day. You know, just for today, just for this meal, I am going to make a good choice. And with every good choice you make, you make that new neural pathway where now all of your choices look like everything that's leading you to health, and then you have the life that you want. Was that a decent roll-up, or did I miss something?
No, that sounded very good.
Excellent. Okay, so we have talked about impulse control disorder today. And so obviously there is more to come. So, tune in next weekend, and we have a surprise for you next weekend, like we do every week on what we're going to talk about. But if you would like to see more of Dr. Hagen's work, go to his website at terryhagenmd.com. And that's going to be Terry Hagen, HAGAN, MD.com. And he has all kinds of wonderful things about anxiety. And, like we said, he's a psychiatrist. So you want to talk the brain, he can talk the brain all day. And if you want to have someone kind of go this journey with you on, trying to overcome an eating disorder, my specialty is bulimia and binge eating disorders. But you can, check out some blogs, get some free stuff. Go to my website at www.ourworldempowered.com. Okay, well, that's it for today, and we will see you next time.